You know, the financing models that we work with, traditional financing models, new financing models, there's a spectrum. And crowdfunding the young entrepreneurs is something that, of course, we're now familiar with, thanks to Indiegogo and a number of other crowdfunding sites that were early adopters and early innovators of crowdfunding entrepreneurs. But can we crowdfund cities? Is that possible? Well, we've asked Melanie Nutter to come and convene a panel to look at crowdfunding innovation. And we've asked Melanie to join us from San Francisco across the bay. Melanie is the former director of the San Francisco City and County Department of Environment under Mayor Gavin Newsom, now our Lieutenant Governor, and by the way, the chairman of the California Land Commission. And the State Lands Commission owns all of the lands of California. We'll get to that later. But Melanie, thank you so much for joining us. She runs now Nutter Consulting, works with a lot of cities through the Urban Sustainability Directors Network and a variety of others, serves on the board of Meeting of the Minds. Much appreciated that you can join us. Thanks so much, Melanie.
Thank you.
See you.
Nice to see you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks so much to Gordon and to Jesse and to Dave and Caroline for putting on another fantastic Meeting of the Minds. This is always one of those conferences that I want to make sure I don't miss, because it really is about this cross-sector dialogue of bringing cities and innovators and entrepreneurs and big thinkers in the room to really talk about what are the vexing problems that our cities are facing and how can we really think out of the box to find new solutions. So again, just want to thank you for putting on another fantastic conference. So as Gordon said, my name is Melanie Nutter. I'm the principal of Nutter Consulting. We are a urban sustainability and smart cities strategy consultancy. We work mostly with cities and foundations, helping them to reduce carbon emissions and to become more resilient locally. As Gordon mentioned, one of my clients is the Urban Sustainability Directors Network. This is a network of about 140 sustainability directors from across the US and Canada, and they all work together to share best practices and really to advance sustainability locally. A project that I'm working on that's relevant to this audience that I wanted to mention is we're currently in the process of helping non-technical city staff, mostly sustainability directors, better understand where and how technology and the better use of data can impact sustainability and sustainability goals at the local level. So we're currently putting together a sustainable technologies toolkit and framework that's about to be completed. And we're also working on a scan of innovation labs. And I've gotten some additional great ideas and names here today. But this is, again, to help these sustainability directors know where to go to get support for that cross-sector collaboration. So those are two projects I wanted to mention today. I'm really happy to be here as the moderator of the session, but also as a board member of the Urban Age Institute, which puts on Meeting of the Minds. And the session that we're about to go into is, as you can see, Crowdsourcing and Crowdfunding 2.0, Reinventing Urban Systems. As the former director of a city agency, the Department of the Environment for San Francisco, I know firsthand how difficult it is to impact legacy systems and how difficult it is to find funding not only for innovative solutions, but for basic maintenance and infrastructure. And that's, of course, what we've been talking about this afternoon. So today we have two innovators that have been part of TUML, which is an incubator that supports startups that are working on addressing urban problems. And we're going to hear from two of those startups today who've been part of the TUML program, who are also they're a partner of Meeting of the Minds. So, I wanted to first introduce Jace Wilson, who is the CEO of Neighborly. He's going to be our first presenter. Please help me in welcoming Jace.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Melanie. Hello, everybody. You still awake? Awesome. So as Melanie mentioned, I'm Jace, CEO of Neighborly, and we're a community investment marketplace that connects people and companies and family offices and corporations and banks with high-quality opportunities to invest directly in the places and the civic projects that they care about, starting with the $1 billion per day municipal bond market that Chris was talking about a little bit ago. And municipal bonds, as Chris mentioned, built this nation. including some of its greatest treasures. If you look out the window through the haze, you can see a bridge that this piece of paper on the screen, 35,000 copies of this piece of paper financed in the 30s. And this was, at that time, a way of civic life. It was something that you just did. And so the bridge was built, and it was like the subject of a front page newspaper article. And the financing of the project was very much a part of being a citizen. And the problem that Neighborly is trying to solve is that over the years, as that market's globalized and computerized, it's become way too difficult for people to invest directly in those places, in those projects. And it's a multifaceted problem. We won't get into details, but part of the problem is that there are a lot of intermediaries in the market today sitting between the issuer, the borrower of the money, and the investors. And another aspect to it, because of so many intermediate steps, it's very easy to be taken advantage of. It's very easy for people that know what they're doing to sort of like exploit and to drive up the nature and the scale of the project. So it's also become a market that's far too exclusive. Does anybody own municipal bonds here directly, like whole individual municipal bonds in their portfolio? None. Does anybody own mutual funds or ETFs? Yeah, nearly the majority. So, and those funds probably themselves hold bonds. So you probably have exposure to bonds through some kind of instrument like that. But if you want to buy bonds today directly, you're looking at something at minimum order size of $50,000, which most people aren't willing to do. Which is interesting because for the people that do buy the bonds and for the traders of those bonds, it's really interesting business because the lack of liquidity sort of drives up the fees. And it's also become way too complicated. That piece of paper that I showed at the beginning of the presentation, the certificate for the Golden Gate Bridge, you can flip it over and read the entire statement of what the certificate represents, and it's written nearly in plain speak. In contrast, today's projects have 300-page prospectuses written by $1,000 an hour lawyers who are incentivized to increase complexity. And you need nearly a PhD in finance to decode them. So Neighborly imagines a new world in which individuals are able to finance the projects that they want and need at the scale that they want and need them, and that we bring municipal finance back into the sort of daily life of citizens. And as a way of, just by quick contrast, think about this. If you want to, say, buy California bonds, go to buycabonds.com and go through the process, and try not to laugh at the website, but they built the website as like an authentic means of trying to get people to invest directly in California. And yet if you go there and you try to walk through the process and say, well, I'm going to put some money into this system, what you end up with is a list of phone numbers to call for brokers who have access to the bonds, who will ask you a series of questions, including beating around the bush of, do you have $100,000 or more, because otherwise, let's end this call. In contrast, 3 weeks ago, or a few weeks ago now, Kenya launched the world's first mobile-only bond. And it was denominated at US $28. And it was through partnership with M-Pesa. And the reasons they issued it were, I think, the most intriguing. They did it as a way for individuals in Kenya to sort of access a new form of investment that circulates directly back into the country, and to raise money more cheaply, because the people of Kenya would give a better deal than, say, global financiers. So in Kenya, you can buy a bond for $28 using your cell phone, or in America, where the municipal bond market idea, the concept was born, you can call your broker and order $50,000 worth. And so Neighborly operates at the intersection of 3 interesting technology spaces. We sort of identify most strongly with the world of financial technology, but we also have elements of government technology and civic technology. And these were accidentally inserted. You should ignore them. They touch on our business model and the double-sided marketplace that we're building that is a low-end cost structure disruption that figures out the unit economics on deals that are too small to be profitable and broker trades that are too small to be profitable. And also ignore this too. Those aren't supposed to be in there. Yay. Instead, focus on this slide, which is like, it has 2 purposes. One is to see whether you're still awake. If you are, maybe you'll get a bit of a chuckle out of it. And 2, there's sort of like a weird, funny, bizarre, but very accurate metaphor for sort of how we're approaching the industry in this slide. And we just raised a $5.5 million seed round We're a technology company led by Formation 8. So we're interesting cousins to companies like OpenGov, which is building the world's best open source understanding of government finance, and Addepar, which is like a global network of wealth management that has billions of dollars worth of municipal bond appetite per month. But we're not building it to make the status quo slightly more efficient. That's not interesting, but that's kind of like how we're approaching it to get there. The thing that we're building ultimately is to help bring about a new era in civic innovation, because we're picturing the wants and the needs of cities 10, 15, 20 years from now will be very different from the wants and needs of the cities of today. Some of those projects are going to be born out of necessity. Some of those projects are going to need to happen at a scale that the current financial system does not support, such as neighborhood water resilience programs, or distributed wireless mesh networks that sort of meet the gap between private market internet service providing and municipal Wi-Fi. And so these are some of the things that our users have told us over the years. And if you know any talented engineers that have a strong financial background, we're hiring like crazy right across the water. So thank you.
Thank you. Do you want to give that to Rose? Okay, great, thanks. So thanks, Jace. That's one really interesting example about how to disrupt a sector that you might not have thought was disruptible, which was the municipal bond market. So thank you for that presentation. And our next presenter is actually being featured in a series that I think you've all heard about, which is the Urban Innovator Series. It's being sponsored by the Urban Innovation Exchange and Meeting of the Minds. And you'll be able to take a look at what different urban innovators are doing on either of their websites. They just revealed the first 5 innovators that are going to be featured. One of them is our next presenter, Rose Bloom, who is the CEO and president, come on up, of Hand Up.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I want to tell you about a story of a night about 3 years ago now that changed my life forever. I was walking down the street in San Francisco on a very cold night, and I saw a woman sleeping on the sidewalk. And this is a very common sight in San Francisco and in cities across the country. But that night I asked myself, why? Why in a society with so much wealth and in a city with such incredible innovation, why we still have people sleeping on our streets at night? And I also wondered why I couldn't pull my phone out of my pocket and push a button and do something. It's kind of, this funny thing. You can click here to change the world. But really, seeing my friends building AI companies and flying cars, thought there must be more we can do to help people right here in our streets. And of course, this isn't an isolated incident. There are about 7,000 people in San Francisco who are experiencing homelessness, and 3.5 million Americans across the country who experience homelessness each year. And if you look at everybody living in poverty, it rises to 50 million. And so that night, I decided I was going to do one thing to help. And I started working with a friend on a project. I thought, what would it look like to be able to donate money directly to somebody experiencing homelessness in our city? And so we started working on it as a side project, and it's called Hand Up. And you can visit our site that's live right now at handup.org. And you can read stories of people who are homeless, how they became homeless, and see what they need in their life. And these goals, just like on any crowdfunding site, can be very, very diverse. So we see people asking for help with small things like bus pass, food, and big things like help moving into an apartment, help paying for a class, help paying for tools. So we launched about 2.5 years ago, and now we've expanded. We have 17 nonprofits who are using Hand Up. we've helped over 1,000 homeless individuals and families reach over 3,000 goals and have raised about $1 million through our site. Thank you. And this is one of our members. His name is Marvin. And Marvin is a veteran. He's a chess master, and he was homeless on the streets in San Francisco. This is a photo from the Chronicle. And Marvin's high school class found out that he was homeless, and they wanted to do something to help him. But they wanted to make sure that the funds went toward a productive use. And so Marvin signed up for Hand Up. And in the first week, his high school class raised over $5,000 for him through his profile, so they could, see his story, donate right through this page. And his case manager used that to help get him into temporary housing. One thing that's not very obvious about Hand Up, but actually is one of the most important parts I want to tell you guys about, is the messages. So it's not just money that goes through the site, but it's words of support. And one of the first things that Marvin and some of our other members said to me is, who's donating to me? Why is anybody donating? I didn't think anybody cared about me. But every time Marvin gets a donation on Hand Up, he gets a text message or an email. It also has a message from his donor that says, I care, you can do it, I'm rooting for you. And those messages mean so much, often even more than the money themselves. In addition to the site, we just launched something new called Hand Up gift cards. A lot of our donors were telling us, I love that I can give directly to people on your site, but there's this gentleman on my street corner who I talk to every day, and I would really like to help him. Do you have a way that I can help him? And so we made these gift cards that are worth $25 that can be handed directly to a person in the street who's experiencing homelessness. And these cards can then be redeemed through our nonprofit partners that are human service agencies for whatever that individual might need. It might be a bus pass, might be help paying a cell phone bill, all different kinds of things. These cards help connect and engage a community that is very disconnected, and in a way that is easy and empowering. And it helps connect people like Marvin with other existing services and resources that they may not be taking advantage of. So Marvin, Hand Up helped bring him in. Now he's been in supportive housing for the last 2 years, and I was really excited about a month ago to find out that Marvin now has a job after he had been homeless on the streets for 25 years. Yeah. Hand Up and other startups like us would not be possible without a newly forming ecosystem of supporters and funders who believe in using innovation to tackle important civic challenges like poverty. Our supporters include TUML, Google.org, Urban US, and we were really excited a couple weeks ago at SOCAP to announce that we'd received funding from the Impact America Fund as well. I think these pipelines are part of what makes Silicon Valley and the traditional technologies be able to get off the ground. And the other really big piece of that is how we think about things. And I see so much big thinking about self-driving cars and artificial intelligence, and I think we need to think bigger about poverty and our other global challenges and use the tools of innovation that we've seen be so successful in the traditional tech industry to help bring new innovations and new solutions to challenges like poverty. So thank you so much. I'll leave you with that.